When we talk about health and equality, disability is a big issue all around the world. Considering that the World Health Organization stated disability is part of being human, it is obvious that people all over the world have to face disability or the challenges involved in taking care of disabled people. However, disability is still stigmatized in our society. Today at Culture Nepal, we have a very special guest who has spent her life addressing this issue and supporting the community and individuals with disabilities. Commissioner Toni Wolf is currently affiliated with MRC, which is Massachusetts Rehabilitation Commission, soon to be MassAbility. Here she will share her experiences and insights to help us understand the issues around disability and what we can do to help those who are facing it. Welcome to Culture Nepal. Today we have a really special guest and I'm sure you'll enjoy listening to her and listening to our conversation. Welcome to Culture Nepal, Commissioner.
Well, thank you for welcoming me. It's so wonderful to be here. I cannot say that enough. And I'm really honored, so thank you.
Oh, absolutely. We're honored too, and thanks for your time and considerations.
Sure.
So for our audience, would you like to start with your brief introduction, like your background?
Sure. So I'm the commissioner of an agency that serves all individuals with disabilities. It's a state agency. It's called Mass Rehab Commission, or known as MRC. However, we are changing the name of the agency to MassAbility, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that later.
Yes.
And so my personal background is I'm from the Bronx, New York.
Wow.
So you may, every now and then it comes out.
Yes.
And I just visited my brother. I grew up in the Bronx, and I went to public school, right? And then I went to college, and I wanted to go to Arizona because I really wanted something so very different than the Bronx. So I went to school, and I became a special ed teacher.
Okay.
And I had the opportunity, the amazing opportunity, to go to Australia. Lived in Australia for 3 years.
Oh, wow.
And I think what Australia taught me so much was appreciating what it's like to be in a foreign country,
Yes.
right, when you leave your own natural country.
Yes.
As well as the incredible richness of the Aboriginal culture.
Yes.
Because I had the incredible opportunity of teaching Aboriginal kids.
Oh, wow.
And that was just amazing.
Okay.
It was really a wonderful experience. From there, I then went back to school, and I went from special ed into what I call the human service industry. And I ran a mental health agency out in Marlborough, not very far from here, called Employment Options, for the last 35 years.
Oh, wow.
That's what I think. Oh, wow, 35
Yes.
years. I had the incredible delight
Yes.
to work with members and staff who really cared about each other, who really built a sense of community.
Absolutely.
And because I was there so long,
Yes.
I had the opportunity to not only get to know the individual, but their family, perhaps their children, their children's children, because I was there for a while.
Yeah.
So it was really a wonderful opportunity. And then at the time, Secretary Sudders reached out to me and asked me to come to this agency, Mass Rehab.
Oh, okay.
And the reason for that was we know that people with disabilities are both visible and invisible.
Right.
And so those that are visible often have physical disabilities, but also disability is related to invisible disabilities.
Right.
And so mental health issues is very strong right now particularly. And so I had that background, and she really wanted to be sure that we also really addressed those with invisible disabilities.
Yes. Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot of background and wonderful, honorable work. Yeah, I came originally from Nepal.
Yeah.
So we always focus on human, you know, like everything is circled around human. And so I had a little bit disorientation when I came to America because it's like work and economy. You know, so that shift has made me think a lot about our society and community, and it's wonderful to focus on work, but then if we don't remember why we're working for, then we get lost. So I'm so pleased to have you here and discuss all this very important thing today. And so going to the subject matter straight, how do you define disability?
Yeah.
And also I just want to add into that, so how much this issue has impacted people here locally and around the world?
Yeah. So it is a prominent issue, no question about it. Right now, just in the United States, and I had to look up the numbers because I myself weren't sure.
Yes.
There are 800,000 people in Massachusetts that have reported that they have a disability.
Only in Massachusetts?
Only in Massachusetts, 800,000. And when I say reported, we know that there's still so much stigma and sometimes shame that people have a disability, that they don't report
That's
it.
sad.
Right? So I believe that number is very low.
Yes.
Across the world, right now it's 1 in 6.
Wow.
1 in 6 across the world.
Yeah.
There is 1.3 billion people. Okay, that's 16% of the world's population.
Yeah.
And then it translates to 1 in 6.
Wow.
So when you think about 1 in 6, it's somebody in my family, right? Perhaps myself, right? It is an issue that impacts everyone,
Right.
and every race,
Right.
every age.
Yes. Yeah, so to me, when somebody says disability, nobody is perfect in this world. You know, not everybody has ability to do everything. So to me, everybody is disabled in a way, you know, but we never think that way.
That's right.
So technically, I'm still not sure what it means. I mean, like you said, there's physical disability, which is very clear to see. But again, like, okay, if you have a muscle pain all the time, like fibromyalgia,
Yeah.
you know, that actually, in fact, like a fibrocloud and, you know, all that thing, that still impact, but nobody would understand that and see it. So how do you actually, you know, like consider somebody is disabled?
So I think there's a wide range, right, of individuals with disabilities. How I think about it is there anything that is the individual is experiencing that may reduce their abilities to do what they want?
Right.
All right? And when I don't use the word limitations,
Right.
all right, I see people with disabilities having to manage barriers.
Oh,
all right?
beautiful.
So what are the barriers that people are experiencing?
Yeah, beautiful.
Right? So, you know, for some people, as you just described with fibromyalgia, the barrier might be they can't necessarily work a full day.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
That doesn't mean they can't work.
Exactly.
That doesn't mean they can't have a career.
Right.
It just means that there needs to be some accommodation so they maybe can work 6 hours a day.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
So those are the things and the barriers that people have to manage.
Oh,
all right?
yeah.
I really believe that is how society views people.
Yes.
That really makes the individual feel like they have a disability, not the individual themselves.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear. Wow, that's heartwarming. Thank you for explaining that. I can obviously see that there's a lot of work needs to be done in the area to make everybody happy and feel empowered. You said that you were interested in working in the field because of your special aid teaching experiences and the human services work. Have you ever faced anything personally in that area?
So, you know, I believe in purpose, and I also believe that sometimes the universe guides you in certain things. And I mean that in a really kind of spiritual kind of way. And so, you know, as a little kid, at 5 years old, I would visit my dad's sister who had profound developmental disabilities.
Oh,
Somebody that was very large, and as a 5-year-old, I can visually remember her. It's a very large woman who really could not really speak as well as I wanted her to.
Right.
All right, and what I remembered about her was that she lived in that apartment in the Bronx every day and didn't go anywhere. She didn't go anywhere.
Oh.
And what I remember and why I think this is so true is that I thought it was very cool that my grandma Wolf lived on Fox Street in the Bronx.
Okay.
So it was really exciting
Wow.
to me. I know, I thought it was always funny as
Wow,
a kid.
that's
Oh my
really-
God, Grandma Wolf lives on Fox Street. How cool is that? And so I always enjoyed going there because of that. But I remembered Aunt Doris not having anyone else but my grandmother.
Oh.
And so that incredible sense of social isolation, and I'm sure back then there were very limited services. I also really believe that my grandma Wolf had a lot of shame and therefore didn't feel comfortable trying to take some risks by having her daughter perhaps access any services if there were then at that time. Move forward, my brother and I were very fortunate to live with another family, and my non-biological sister, has spinal bifida, and so she was in a wheelchair, and she couldn't go to school because her school was not accessible. Not because she couldn't do it, all right, but the school wasn't accessible. So here was this incredibly vibrant, and I absolutely love Barbara, person who wanted to have friends, who wanted to socialize, but because the school was not accessible, she had to be homeschooled, right? Now fast a little bit forward, my father ultimately was diagnosed with manic depression and actually died in a state institution. So I have experienced that lens.
Yes.
All right. And what I want to say is that I think we need all those lenses together. The actual, someone themselves should be at the table with a disability, and someone with the lens of a family lens, a sibling lens. I think all of those lenses matter. A parent lens is really incredible, right? Because we know that so many of our families take care of their children and worry about the long life they'll have and the quality that they're going to have. So that parent lens is equally important. So for me, it's really about pulling all those people together, all those perspectives, right, and think about what's really important and how should services be delivered.
Oh yeah, I can see that burning, strong passion within you.
It's literally my purpose. It sounds corny, but it's literally my purpose.
I totally agree with that. I can relate to you also because I grew up with a cousin who had a muscular dystrophy. And of course I was a child at that time, and I had a fabulous relationship with my cousin who died at that time again because of, and there's no medical facility or anything available. He did die early, like 18 years old, but he always, his half of his body was not working.
Paralyzed.
And paralyzed. He was walking till 5-year-old, and then after 5-year-old, slowly it just declined. And I always remember he had such a high hope of riding a bike. That's all he thought about. Like, oh, once I get better, I want to ride bike. And he was brilliant in his mind. He was so brilliant. So I can relate to that.
You just reminded me, I got an email from a parent probably about 2 months ago that has stayed in my memory. And she has a daughter that has a very severe physical disability, and her daughter always wanted to drive, right? And she wrote saying, I never could really encourage her because I didn't know it was possible. And fast forward, she was able to access our services. We were able to have, we have a car, an evaluation car, that really allows people to figure out, can we modify a car to really fit your needs? And she went through the evaluation process. We made sure she got adaptive driving education, and she emailed to say, my daughter's dream was fulfilled. She always wanted to drive a car, and now she has a car, and she's driving.
Oh my God.
So, it's those moments that makes a huge difference in people's lives. And it's about hope, and it's about resources, and about reaching out for help.
Yeah, exactly, and help, being compassionate to the person. I did have that revelation to myself because, Tesla,
Yeah.
self-driving
Yes.
car. I didn't like it when I was before I had an accident.
Yeah.
It's like, why do we need
Oh,
that? Now I'm like, thank God they have
Yes.
Tesla.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just think what that will do when it's
Yes.
really out to market.
Yes.
It's going to change enormously the availability of community resources for people with disabilities.
Yes.
Well, I think it's really about matching your personal experiences
Yes.
and seeing, you can either see that life is incredibly difficult and hard,
Yes.
and it is,
Yes.
all right, or you can also say, how do I use that experience,
Yeah.
all right, to not only make sure I grow and I heal,
Yeah.
but who else can I reach out to?
Yes.
So I feel like that's why I'm in the work that I'm in.
So what was the vision of MRC initially, from the founding
Sure.
members?
So it's a 75-year-old state agency.
Okay.
And it was really the first time agencies or the state was able to really think about providing services with people with disabilities.
Yeah.
And there, I just want to be clear that the state has many different agencies, all right? But we focus on people with all kinds of disabilities if they don't meet the criteria for the Department of Mental Health or for developmental disabilities.
Yeah.
So they come to us,
Yeah.
all right, and they have a availability of resources.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, 75 years ago, we were in a very different place.
Yeah.
It was the birth of, hadn't even started, the physical disability movement hadn't even started yet.
Okay.
The Americans Disability Act hadn't even was created yet, right? So it's really amazing when I think 75 years ago how much the fact that Massachusetts identified the importance of disability. But then there are all these other federal laws that pushed it forward, right?
Yeah.
And so here we are today. And I think in Massachusetts, we are incredibly progressive in our thinking, right? There are states still, there are countries that still believe that people with disabilities should be taken care of, right?
Yeah.
They should be protected.
Yes.
That is not how we believe in Massachusetts,
Yes.
right? We really want to make sure there are resources. We understand that there are barriers that people have, but it is all our responsibilities to remove those barriers.
Yes, absolutely. So federal has a program for disability, and then under federal we have state, and MRC is the state affiliated.
That's right. We get Mass Rehab, or soon to be known MassAbility, gets both federal dollars and state dollars.
Okay.
So it's really that combined effort.
Okay.
All right. Because the truth is, our federal dollars are incredibly rich in terms of being able for us to use all kinds of ways to use those dollars. But obviously the resources are limited.
Yes.
And so we're really lucky that Massachusetts also makes sure that there are state dollars for our agency and for the people we serve.
Okay. So each state have this kind of agency?
That's right.
Okay.
There are what they call agencies across the country. In fact, I was in a conference a couple of days ago where I met people from Puerto Rico. Right, met people from Guam. So it's not only just our states; it's also our other countries that are affiliated with us. Our other, I forgot what they're called actually. So it was exciting to have everyone together.
Yes,
all right,
absolutely.
and learn from each other.
Yeah.
What are the services that we need to change?
Yes.
Because the truth is, think about the young adult today.
Yep.
All right, the young adult today is not wanting to wait 6 months before you get into the door, right? We are all used to quick now, right? So we need to find ways for our services to be much more user-friendly.
Yes.
Much quicker in our response.
Yes.
And to continue, that responsiveness is really important.
Right.
And so agencies like us across the country are really trying to think about more innovative practices, all right, to really address the needs of the person today.
Absolutely. It's not only about supporting them for their independence after their diagnosis, but also preventive measure. Do you do anything in terms of preventive measures?
So we serve 14 and up, and the reason why we do that under the Workforce Investment Act is because we want to make sure that youth get resources in the schools,
Right.
all right?
Right.
And so that they understand that if they wanted to go to school after they finish public school or whatever they're in high school. They can access that. If they want training, they can access that. And we also are training people to really, and young adults, to be honest, to advocate for themselves. So I think, you know, it's really about helping people see that they have strengths, all right? And it's part of the preventiveness, right? We don't want young adults to think that they can't work or have a career or have a family because they have a disability.
Absolutely.
All right? And so it's really important to give that message in the schools and in the high schools.
Right.
I have to say, I don't know the percentage of the folks that we serve, but I can tell you accidents are incredible. And a lot of people have spinal cord accidents, brain injury accidents. Anything we can do to make sure kids wear helmets. Right? Anything we can do in sports to make sure that as much as possible, safety equipment is available. And if there isn't safety equipment, really think twice about making sure that your child access that sport, right? Because we know head concussions can cause serious damage over time, right? So it's those kinds of awareness to educate, I think is really critical. You know, car accidents, making sure you put your seatbelt on, all these things, because accidents happen.
It does.
And many happen in our young youth age, right? But I also have to say, as someone that has white hair, you know, our age bracket also has disabilities, and so we also have to be mindful of how we walk and where we go and so forth to make sure we're trying to be as safe as possible. So that's why I think the disability number that I recorded, 800,000 in Massachusetts, is low. All right, because as we age, that increases the level of disability.
Absolutely.
Especially the invisible disabilities. I don't think people think about that. Right? I think people think about the physical disability, and that is the box that people put people in. There's a whole level of invisible disability, right? And you don't know. You don't know. So don't assume anything. All right, and be sensitive to the fact that maybe someone has an invisible disability.
Talking all this thing, I'm kind of thinking, coming from Nepal originally, what could Culture Nepal to help to assist MRC coming from that perspective?
I love that question, and I'm really grateful for it, because we know that there is so much cultural richness in our country. And at the same time, the cultural differences have to also be honored. Right? There are some cultures that the word disability doesn't even exist. Right? And so again, we have, you know, individuals that work for us at the agency, our staff, who come from a diverse backgrounds, who could talk from their point of view, from their background, from their culture, to your organization, right? And be able to think about, how do we better understand your culture? How do we better understand your language? All right, so that we feel that we're sensitive, and that we do this in a kind of a journey kind of way. Right? Because we have to understand people first, and where they come from and their culture. Right? We can't just barge in. All right? So together, I would love to figure out a way for us to journey together so that we can educate people, but educate people in what I would call small bites, right? So it doesn't feel overwhelming. And I don't want anyone to feel that sense of shame.
Absolutely,
Right? But cultural differences is real. And it would, I think your organization would enrich us as well. We would learn from you.
Absolutely. No, like even today, like I have a problem with dealing with the paperwork. You know, so much information. I didn't grow up like, my life was very simple. I would just say verbally to somebody, and then things will be done. I didn't have to write in a paper and all that thing. So legal aspects, the whole, you know, perspective, thinking about economy, that is kind of disability when you think about it.
And our state systems are not easy. They're just not, all right? And I'm in it, and I know that they're not easy, right?
Thank you for that.
And so how can we bridge that?
Yes.
And I think your organization could help us bridge that.
Yes.
Right? I think when you see a face, you see have a handshake, you see eye to eye, that hopefully dismisses the fear that people have about seeking help, all right? And again, learning from each other.
Like understanding is the big part.
Yes.
So we had actually a program with a women's organization, Acton, explaining how we even celebrate birthday.
Yes.
Because we forgot how we celebrate birthday because everybody cut cakes and this American style.
Yes, yes.
When I think, because I don't live there, I miss it. And then when I think about it, there's so much in that cultural wisdom that we have.
That's right.
Yeah. So it was a really nice program, maybe like us.
Well, we would love to bridge together those gaps.
Yeah.
All right, because we need to learn from you, and I think we can offer some guidance and resources.
Absolutely.
So let's do that together.
I'm so thrilled about that. Since you have so much experience and richness in your career to work for this population, what advice that you would give to people of Nepal to deal with this issue?
Yeah.
So and the people who care about disabled.
Yeah. I think one is you need to maintain your hope and belief. You have to.
Yes.
All right?
Yes.
Don't limit anybody at all because you don't know what's possible.
Yeah.
And I think everyone deserves a quality of life.
Yes.
And that quality of life needs to be determined by that individual. All right? So I think that number one, don't lose hope. Number two, make sure there's no shame with a disability.
Yeah.
All right? I think being, in America, we're a little assertive, right?
Yes.
And I know that's not easy for every culture.
Yes.
But please start advocating. Start learning, start advocating.
Yes.
Sometimes it matters when you are reaching out to us in a maybe a little bit more of I don't want to say aggressive way, but a clear way.
Absolutely.
Would be really helpful.
Yeah.
Because you do have to advocate for your family.
Right.
All right? People can get lost unintentionally in the state government. Don't let that happen.
Okay.
All right? I think also we want to make sure that there are services that are available that you should access.
Yeah.
People have rights to these services.
Okay.
Everyone has rights to these services.
Yeah.
All right? We have employment services, we have career services, we have independent services. Access them, and if what we have isn't clear, call us and let us know that so that we can together bridge the gaps.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about, with that note, what differences have you found in Australia, like around the world? You probably know more about around the world. What are the differences?
I've learned, first of all, that those of us in America don't always understand what it's like to live in a different country.
Okay.
And how difficult it is to give up your homeland.
Yes.
And I don't think we're always that sensitive.
Yes.
And I think we're seeing that
Yes.
in Massachusetts right now with our new arrivals coming in from Venezuela and Haiti, right?
Yeah.
So number one, we're all human.
Yes.
We all have a home,
Yes.
all right? And we need to appreciate that people left their home, and that was not an easy decision.
Oh, yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
So I think that's number one. I think, again, we need to think about how do we learn from each other?
Yeah.
Or how do we understand each other's culture?
Right.
Because there is an American culture.
Yeah,
all right, just like
absolutely.
there is a Nepal culture.
Yeah.
And how do we find ways, again, to knit them together?
Yeah, yeah. So the world has to be in the same pace as we are, or we need to be in the same pace as they are.
Well, I think we have to, everyone has to assimilate,
Assimilate,
right? I don't know if that's really true.
Yeah.
I think that I can say for myself, I have to learn about different cultures. It's my responsibility.
Yeah, I actually have a little bit of perspective of Bhutanese, Bhutanese of Nepali origin. Remember, I don't know if you have followed through. And they just didn't want to leave home. That's kind of psychology mentality. It's not their choice, but they were forced anyway.
Absolutely.
And then the Bhutanese government think, oh, they're having a good time because they're in the rich European Western country. And there's a lot of suicidal cases among them. And I can relate to that. And I wish, with all the good intentions that the American government or other government is doing, is it working, is the question.
Well, I mean, I don't want to get into politics, but I think we're seeing a lot of divide.
Absolutely.
And I think right now in Massachusetts we're not seeing that as much.
Yeah.
And I think we have a governor who is very clear that she wants an inclusive
That's
state.
That's so wonderful.
And I think that is really exciting.
Yeah.
All right. And that has been the belief in previous governors,
Yep.
to be honest.
Yes.
And so I think Massachusetts, we're really lucky
Yeah.
compared to some other states.
Absolutely.
All right, that we do want inclusivity. We do want to make sure there are people of color representing in all workforce,
Yeah.
in all our community, and that includes people with disabilities.
Yes, yes. And then I think the refugee, the case itself is so big that it automatically, I think, makes people like not able to figure out things in life. You know, it's invisible disability.
Yes, the invisible. I think the more we talk more about the invisible disability,
Yeah.
I think the more people will have those aha moments.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
Because we are very visible in our country. We're very image focused.
Yes.
Right, and so we're quick to judge.
Yes.
Unintentionally.
Yes.
But yes, invisible disabilities exist,
Yeah.
and we need to make sure that people understand them more.
Yeah, and it's really, I think America is like a role model for everybody around the world, and so they have high expectations here. But what would the world needs to know about America? You know, like how do they understand how hard people here
Yeah.
work to make people's life better?
So I had the opportunity to go to the World Health Organization
Oh.
at a conference, actually, and I actually presented on parental mental health, people with mental health conditions who are parents,
Yeah.
and trying to understand how to provide resources for our parents. There are some countries that are way ahead of us.
Yeah.
All right,
Like
like
for
the
example?
Netherlands, like Scandinavian countries.
Yeah.
They have a very different way of operating,
Okay.
and I think disability is seen very differently
Yeah.
than in the United States.
That's interesting.
So I think, again, like everything, all countries have their strengths and challenges,
right.
But I think for America, at least I can speak for Massachusetts, I do think we want to make sure that people feel empowered,
Right.
they have self-determination,
Right.
and they have pride.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that there are opportunities here. Do not limit your thoughts about opportunities
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
And that means career services, that means families. So we really need to make sure that people with disabilities know that there are resources. All
Yeah.
right? And I think the more people know that, the more parents understand that if they have a child with a disability,
Right.
all right, do not limit their opportunities and
Yeah.
the possibilities boundless.
I love all the how positive empowerment, the sentiment that comes out from you. And I'm so privileged to live in Massachusetts, and
Yeah.
I really hope that Massachusetts MRC or MassAbility will be a role model for the world to kind of follow. And
if I can just say why we're changing the word to MassAbility.
Absolutely.
We wanted to make sure we listened to the members of the disability community.
Yeah.
And we held focus groups and trying to understand our services and how we can make them more user-friendly,
Yeah.
how we can make them more innovative. And the name came up a great deal. And as I said yesterday at a press conference, what really moved me was a young adult who said, "I am not broken. Why is there rehabilitation
Absolutely.
in the name of a disability agency?"
Yes.
That young adult's got it right on.
Yes.
All right. And so at that moment, it was like, that's why we need to change our name of our
Yeah.
agency.
Wow.
Right. Perhaps 75 years ago,
Yeah.
the history of the disability movement was not as strong.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
And rehabilitation made sense.
Yes.
75 years ago.
Yes.
It doesn't make sense now. That's not where we are today.
Yeah.
The disability movement has moved much more further on.
Yes.
And we want to propel it forward. And so why we want to be very strength-based, why we want to say people have abilities, all right? People want to live in the community. People want careers,
Right.
all right? That is why we're called MassAbility.
Yeah, I like the word because it's also like an oxymoron, mass ability.
Yes.
You know, and it's very empowering
Yes.
just to think. And then people who has been disabled understand that sensitivity
Yes.
of people. But, you know, like, I think it's a really big word to even think about for everybody to think about it, and it's educational in itself.
Yes.
But we can go on and on this subject. There's so much to cover. But for today, would you like to say something before we wrap up?
You know, I want to give you like incredible credit to reach out to me.
Thank you.
All right. And you took a risk by doing that.
Thank you.
Right?
Thank you.
And that's what life is about, is these calculated risks.
Yes.
All right. And so I think we need to always push ourselves forward.
Yeah.
And you did that by reaching out to me.
Thank you.
And I have incredible benefit from that.
Thank you.
And so I really want people to continue to do that.
Yes.
Take these small calculated risks, reach out, connect,
Yeah.
ask for help,
Yeah.
find out what's out there,
Yeah.
because we want more for people with disabilities.
Absolutely. And then you were wonderful, because I hear speak in this conference, and I could just right away knew that you were how passionate and how much you want to empower. Like just, it's like kind of connection, spiritual connection.
Yeah.
Not 100% sure if I want to participate, but at the same time also you provided transportation.
Yes,
That
yes.
was big to me.
Yes.
And also being there, I really learned so much, and you did such a great job. I'm very happy to
Thank you.
be part of.
So we will do the summit again, just for your audience. We have this summit every year
Yeah.
where we invite people to
Yeah.
learn more about
Yeah.
us, as well as engage, all right, and connect
Yes.
and build relationships.
Absolutely.
Right, and so again, there'll be another opportunity next fall
Yes.
for others to join.
Yes.
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 So yes.
Yes, and I really hope that our work together will be also very exemplary.
Yeah.
There's so much work to do.
There
I'm
is so much work to be
excited.
done. There is so
I'm
much work to
very
be done. But we
excited.
have to appreciate that our four founders really moved this movement. I want to be honoring the history of the disability movement.
Yeah, that was
And
my
at the same
question.
token, we also want to propel it forward.
Yeah.
All right. And
Yeah.
so that's how we do it, by building relationships and connections.
Yeah, it is 75 years.
75 years.
Wow, that's a
And
lot
that-
of work,
yeah.
and I'm very grateful for everybody who is involved to bring us this far.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So thank you.
Very
There's more.
happy.
There's much more to do, and we can't do it by ourselves, which is why we need the community to come forward
Yeah.
and connect. Look out for MassAbility. We're going to launch it in January.
Right.
There will be more opportunities for people to connect with us.
Yeah.
We're using this kind of rebranding name really about changing the paradigm for
Right.
people with disabilities. That's what
Right.
it's really about.
Yeah.
And so we really want to make sure people know who we are
Yeah.
and work with us. And I'm just one face of many in our organization.
Absolutely.
All right? Please, there are people that
Yeah.
that reflect the communities we serve.
Yeah.
We want to make sure we're available.
Yeah. So if our audience want to reach out to MassAbility,
Right. So
I would say MRC.
yeah. Right now it's under MRC.
Okay.
All right. We're waiting for the legislature to sign off on it.
Okay.
So that's why we're saying our launch officially is in January. There'll be a new website.
Okay.
We're hoping the website's more user friendly.
Yes.
Again, government needs to push a little bit more
Yeah.
to be more user friendly.
Absolutely.
And we're eager to reach out to people.
Okay. So they can just
But
search
for now, search
MRC.
MRC will
Yeah.
pop up under mass.gov.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you go on the site mass.gov and type in MRC,
Okay.
You'll see about our webpage.
Yeah, okay. So, and then also if you have any question, you can also contact Culture Nepal at ActonTV, and the email is culturenepal.actontv@gmail.com. Feel free to contact us.
Great.
Connect.
And we'll share what we've done together.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you so
Thank
much
you.
for coming here and talking all this thing. And then I really wish you all the best. We hope our conversation with Commissioner Wolf today is useful to all our viewers to understand some of the issues around disability. For further information, please feel free to contact MRC or Culture Nepal at ActonTV. We wish you all a happy and healthy life, and thank you for all your support for Culture Nepal.